In the previous section of this course, I told you what Linux really is. It's distributions, and what we have to remember when using this system. We mentioned that Linux is the kernel of the system, and the system which we use on a daily basis is the so-called Linux distribution. What is this distribution? What should we associate with it? In fact, the Windows that we install from a CD can be treated as a distribution of Windows. There can be only one distribution of Windows at a given time, but it's a set of specific tools with a kernel. In the case of Linux, it's more or less the same. A Linux distribution is a collection of all the tools that may be useful to an average user. Most often, a single distribution consists of several components. First characteristic thing is the Linux kernel. It can be identical to that which is overseen by Linus Torvalds, but in most cases, this kernel has been modified to some extent. Usually, some enhancements are added, like additional drivers. Specific settings are changed, which allows the distribution's creators to, for instance, decide that task scheduling on the operating system will perform better with some custom parameters of the task scheduler. Generally, when it comes to the Linux kernel, each distribution differs from the others. Firstly, in some detailed settings of the kernel, and secondly, in the availability of certain drivers or additional solutions that stem from a certain philosophy about what should be delivered. There may also be various technical differences. For example, how much more than 4 GB of RAM is handled. But really it all boils down to the configuration of the kernel's parameters. Of course, in a distribution, we get a kernel that is compiled and ready to use. The end user does not need to know what has been changed, how it's been changed. In fact, this isn't necessary at all, because the designers of the distribution make these decisions for the user and release ready-made solutions. Second characteristic feature is a set of cooperating software tools. The software that's included in every distribution are the tools we use on a daily basis. Office suites, word processors, graphics programs, or even the entire graphic user interface and console. All that comprises a set of tools. The specific contents of which again depend on the selected philosophy or policy of a given distribution. Most often, there are several alternatives. What's important is that all the programs working together are designed and made in such a way to make sure that everything that's available in the official release of the distribution will definitely work together. Sometimes it happens that the latest version of a program uses, for example, version 1.1 of some library, and an earlier version uses version 1.0 of that library. This may cause conflicts. The distribution makes sure that all programs that use libraries available on the system, for example version 1.1, are also delivered in the versions that work properly with the available libraries, so that there are no conflicts. The third characteristic thing for any distribution is its package management system. In the following presentation, we'll discuss what packages are in more detail. At the moment, we know that a package is actually a program. OpenOffice is a software package. A graphics program is a package. A text editor is also one of the packages. In short, the package is simply a program. For Windows systems, there is only one or maybe two ways of software distribution available. These are the EXE or MSI files. Both solutions come down to a situation where we just run them and they install the program we need. In the case of Linux, packets can be supplied in various ways. The two most common mechanisms for grouping files into packages are the so-called RPM and DEB. Some distributions use RPM packages. For example, Fedora, OpenSUSE, CentOS, Red Hat are systems that are based on RPM packages. DEB packages, as the name suggests, are derived from the word Debian, the distribution, which introduced that form of software management for the first time. All Debian derivatives use this type of packages. The best known are Debian and Ubuntu and all the other variations. Keep in mind that these two forms of software distribution are not compatible with each other, but most software is available in both forms, so that does not really matter for the end user. We just have to know which package type our system uses when we download a package from its publisher's webpage. Another important feature is the installer. When it comes to it, distribution developers are striving to make their installer as friendly as it's only possible, colorful, and requiring the least amount of user actions possible. By user actions, I mean the decision that must be taken during installation. In short, the installers are supposed to be pleasant, simple, and secure. Today, Linux installation is a relatively simple thing. It allows us to safely install the system, even if we have something else installed, for example, another Linux or Windows. The installer will find room on the disk and arrange everything so that it cooperates the way it should. Installers are things that get praised virtually at each new release. A distribution can be the basis for other distributions. This is a very common solution. For example, Debian is the basis for Ubuntu, and in turn, Ubuntu has multiple versions, like Ubuntu Kubuntu, Edubuntu. Each of these distributions actually provides a slightly different set of software adapted for a specific recipient. Ubuntu is a standard distribution. Kubuntu has a slightly modified graphical user interface. Edubuntu, as the name suggests, has been thought out for educational software applications. Also, in the case of systems based on RPM packages, the family tree is quite broad. The Red Hat distribution used to be free and open. Today it's a commercial solution, but other distributions like OpenSUSE or Fedora are based on it. In the following parts of the course, by saying Linux, I'll mean a specific distribution of the system. We'll do so to avoid meaning dissonance.